Alright guys, welcome to another episode of Chuck the Rap Stars Garage, where today we try to solve a problem of some tire rub with some 35-inch tires put on the truck. Now when I first initially bought the car, it had the 35s on it. As you can see, the end cap is missing from the floorboard, so the previous owner was fully aware that the tires are rubbed. But when I got it, the tires were a little bit run down, and I just bought these tires and it is rubbing like crazy. So today, we're probably gonna chop off about a ½ inch section of the running boards to make the rubbing stop and to make the clearance better. Stay tuned. All right, what you'll need for this project: some Sharpies, a reciprocating saw, a drill, painter's tape, a Torque 25 bit, another drill. This is a stronger build because you'll be drilling some holes in the metal. Also a jigsaw that you use to cut one of the other brackets, and make sure they all have metal blades on them. All right, to start this process, you're gonna wanna get under the floorboards or the running boards and take off these Torque 25 screws that go all the way down from one side to the other. So you take all those out so you can remove the puddle light and remove that bracket and get the wiring out. So we're gonna get started on that right now. All right, now when you get to the end here, there's gonna be same size bits, but you pull this one off right here, and there's like a secret bit behind it. You don't necessarily have to pull those off because these are just holding this plastic cap on, because I'm only gonna be removing this bracket. So you could leave this on, but if you want to pull these off and pull this black plastic cap off the back, you're more than welcome to, but I'm going to leave it on for my project today. But yeah, that's all the screws. All right, so one thing I didn't mention as a tool is you'll probably need a rubber mallet or one of these weighted hammers. That bracket we just loosened is probably stuck in there. This car is 10 years old or 9 years old, so it's going to be hard to pull off. What I did was I came over here and started banging on the floorboard. Hit it a couple times and then go in there and try to pull it loose. All right, back under the car here, you can see the bracket still on here. So we're gonna try to wiggle it out, and there it goes. And of course the wiring harness is still connected in the front, so you'll have to disconnect that, which we'll go over there right now. All right, we can see the wiring harness is being held in place by a zip tie, and you can kind of see the damage on here with the wire hanging out from the tires rubbing. So we're going to disconnect this zip tie right here. Try not to cut the wire any more than it's already cut. If I can get it in there. Come on, zip tie. There it goes. And then that should fall out. And then there's a plug in here, which I'm going to show you guys in a second because I got to go grab my panel popping tool to get this little thing out. I'll be right back. All right, so if you look in there, you can see the wires being held in place by that. Forgot what those clips are called. I'm just going to call it a clip. I'm going to try to come in with this to pry it off. And you couldn't see it because the camera changed the angle, but here you go. Here's the clip pulled out. Then we're going to disconnect this wiring harness right here by removing this red tab. Pull it, or not remove it, but pull it up. This thing's covered in dirt. I am gonna have to get another tool. I'll be right back. All right, so I got a little flathead here that we're gonna try to use to pry this up. It's coming up a little bit, but I'm pretty sure it's probably gonna break because this thing is covered in mud and dirt and grime from this protective cover not being on. I mean, you can see it's coming up. Let's see if that's far enough to disconnect this thing. Let's see. Nope. Let's keep going. All right, so it looks like that red clip came all the way out. So we're gonna try to push down on this thing and see if it releases the light here. Probably gonna fucking break it. Oh shit, pinch down. There we go. All right, so we disconnected this. Now we're gonna pull this out of that channel there. It's being held in by this plastic piece. So you're gonna pull straight out. You gotta stretch it a little bit and then drop it. Now, there's no wires in there that can be cut during the process. So we're gonna get back underneath here because this wire is kind of a little too close for comfort for the cut. I'm gonna get in here with my little pry tool. We're gonna pull this out when the zip tie connects. Boom. And let it sit back here a little bit farther, a little safer from the reciprocating saw. All right, so I already did my passenger side. Didn't film any of it, but we're gonna film the driver's side today. This painter's tape is pretty much gonna be the section that we're cutting off, which is a pretty big section. The reason why I'm choosing to do that much is the chrome piece stops right here, so it'll look a little, uniform with this piece chopped off. And then the tire will have more than enough clearance and stop scraping on the floorboard. Stay tuned. All right, so you're gonna wanna use something straight to try to mark a line because a reciprocating saw is not as accurate as you would like, but if you have a line, you can try to track back to it. So I'm gonna use this contractor speed square, whatever they call it, and do a line down here. And that should be pretty straight. Follow. There you go. So my painter's tape is either crooked or my speed square is crooked, but I'm gonna go with the painter's tape is crooked, not the speed square. All right, we're gonna try to cut that line out and we'll see what's up. All right, now I already cut the passenger side, so I'm hoping this blade is gonna still work and not be super dull, but let's see what happens and try to get the sawzall here lined up. Painter's tape is gone. But we're gonna try to follow this line. Hopefully it stays. There we go. There's our cut piece. Now let's go ahead and try to crank the wheel, see if that fixed anything. We'll see. Sheesh. Got a lot more clearance there now. We have more chance of hitting the mud flat than the floorboards or running boards. Let's go. All right, we're not done yet. We still have to trim the light bracket that we took off because that's going to hang over. So I have to cut that bracket, and then I'm going to be cutting another hole underneath to be able to fish that wire that you see hanging down there in through, so it's out of the way as well. So stay tuned for that. All right, so we're back underneath the Yukon or the truck, whatever you want to refer it to. So this bracket that we removed also needs to be cut. So if you look right here, it's hanging off. The angle's weird, but let me see if I can get in. It's protruding out, so we'll have to cut that as well. I'm gonna mark it with my Sharpie, and then we'll cut it with a jigsaw. And there we go. That's how much we're gonna be cutting off because all the screw holes are aligned, so we'll be able to just put it back in. But the one thing I wanted to show you is, let me pull this off real quick. is previously the wiring harness was curving up into it. I'm gonna try to drill a hole somewhere right here so it just feeds in instead of curving around the front, where it could still get tire rub if, you know, some suspension thing happens, which I have it on the other side. But this will still be protected in this hole and curved in because, you know, there's a little slat. So I'm basically gonna cut another hole in here. I'll show you all that. All right, so we're gonna take this and we're gonna pull this off so it's not in the cutting area or in danger of being cut. Pull that off like that. And then we'll drag this over here to my cutting area, which again, I am using a jigsaw to cut this. And just wrap it around like that. My line that I marked isn't super straight, but we'll get it done. Here we go. Oh, you know what? I forgot one thing. I'll be right back. All right, back to it. I forgot to put my clamp down. I'm over here holding it, wondering why it's wiggling. And then while we have it out here, gonna file this down a little bit. I am not a professional, just a DIY, whatever. All right, we got the filed a little bit, so we're gonna grab it, put it back on the running board, and mark where I'm gonna cut that secret hole where it just goes inside the running board instead of going around the outside. So, meet you there. All right, here we are trying to slide this thing back in to try to wind it up here. And we'll see how well this goes. Breaking this light. All right, so we're all pretty much lined up here. So I'm gonna probably cut a hole, probably somewhere like right in this area underneath this, so this wire can just suck straight in. I am gonna end up cutting the factory connector. I know a lot of people aren't gonna like that. My passenger side already got destroyed, so it didn't have the factory connector on it anyway. So that's what made it easier to just drill my own hole and pop it in. So yeah, I'll show you where I mark it and then we'll drill the hole. All right, so I have decided to drill my hole right there. You might not be able to see the mark, but I'm gonna take a drill a hole in. And again, instead of this wire here reaching around the outside, it's just gonna go straight in and it's gonna be hidden under this bracket too. So wish me luck. All right, just to give you the visual here, the hole is right there. So we're gonna run the wire in there. So again, so it's not reaching over the edge. Even though we've made more clearance for the tire, definitely don't want the wire hanging out anyway. So yeah, pop that hole in there and we'll fish the wire in there and see how it goes. All right, I know a lot of you guys are gonna be like, no, don't cut the factory harness. Again, the passenger side was already obliterated and missing it, so that seems to be doing fine over there. So we're gonna do the same thing here, but I'll leave enough just in case I need to reattach it. And then, ooh, this one I'm gonna have to, let's see if I can get this tape off. So I can pull it back here. I don't want to cut any of this wire loom off. I want to leave that on here. All right, and then we're gonna pull the factory wire out of the loom here. And it's just a black and red wire. And we're gonna do the same thing that we did on the other one. Give it a little space here, just in case we gotta put it back on there. There you go. Now this is gonna make it easier for me to fish the cable back through that hole we established in here. And then we'll just marry them together, because if you ever do have to take this apart, this is only a clip so you can replace the light, I guess, if the light breaks. But I mean, at the same point, you can just cut it and resplice it. Hello, we got some tire damage right here from it rubbing, so we're gonna have to cut it off anyway. Cut it down here. All right, so we're gonna prep this to be spliced together with the factory one. I mean, it's all factory, whatever. I know I gave you a list of tools at the beginning, but stripping or splicing tools, I got my torch, some shrink tube, crimpers, strippers, and my little tackle box here with all my connectors. And then we got some Tessa tape to wrap it all up to try to weatherproof it and make it look factory. And the breakfast of champions right here. Haven't had breakfast yet. But you know what? I'm a rock star, baby. You know, favorite flavor, lime freeze. Rockstar want to sponsor your boy. Give me a fridge full of this stuff. Let's do it. But continuing on here, take a little sip of that. Again, we're going to prep this. I'm going to make sure the wires are even. I'm going to use my strippers here. And we're going to eyeball it and go with this second slot here. Oh, look at that, worked. Ooh, there's a little rust on here, but the lights did work before, so shouldn't be that big of a deal. Ooh, they are not even. What the heck's going on here? We're gonna have to cut this back. Even just makes it easier to work with when you're splicing the two wires together, so they're not pushing back and forth. That's pretty good, if I was to say so. Twist these little babies up. Come here to my tackle box. Grab these little, I don't know, these butt connectors. And we're gonna drop them in here. Pinch it down. Drop it in here. Pinch it down. Make sure that splice on the side of the barrel is on the side so it doesn't mess up the crimp. All right, these bad boys are crimped. Now take the shrink tube, eyeball it. That looks about half here. Look at that, almost in half. And then I will pre-slide it on here. Pre-slide it on here. For when they venture through the hole. No, they're not going to want to go back in this freaking. Put some test tape on here to help protect it a little bit more. And try to weatherproof it, I guess. All right, and this stuff is not fun to tear, so we're gonna go ahead and cut it. Voila, Tessa tape. Oh man, I was supposed to get a razor blade to help separate this. All right, we'll be right back after these messages. All right, got ourselves a razor blade so we can try to cut back this black tape on this wire here. You want to be very careful not to cut yourself.
Shoot.
I'm sorry. Should be no cursing on this show. Video. Whatever you people want to call it. Chuck the Rap Stars Garage, baby. All right, so we'll prep this here with what we have, and we'll leave that like that. Prep you. First of all, are they even? Yes, they are. And then we'll prep them as so. That's probably a little too long. I'll end up trimming those down. Oh my God, the razor blade almost got me. That looks good to me. All right, so I wasn't filming, but you can see the wire right here. Let me see if I can zoom in over there because I'm a little bit ways away. You can see the wire being fished into that hole I drilled. And then we're just, let's try to line this up here.
Our handiwork.
Now remember, we pre-did that wire over here, so it'd be easier to do. And look, there she is. There she is, sticking right out. So we're just gonna boom. All right, let me get my shrink tube here, which I strategically placed inside of here. Now let's see if we can slide it down on here. Probably not gonna let me, huh? Nope. So we are gonna have to make this one open more. All right, I'm gonna not make you guys watch that. Give me a second, I'll be right back. All right, so we got these all stretched out. So now we're gonna splice them together. So we're gonna do, of course, red with red. And then we're gonna hit it with the blowtorch. Pretty good. All right, so I'm gonna cut this excess black tape off. And then we're going to try to stick it back in the wire loom. Boom. Now it's all protected in the loom. I am going to Tessa tape this together, make it a little bit more waterproof, and then probably drill another hole to mount a zip tie so it stays inside there. There we go. So we'll tuck you back in here. I don't know if this is still gonna work pretty good, because I'm gonna have to cut this extension piece off that hangs out. Yeah, it doesn't really work that good. So yeah, I'll have to drill a hole and zip tie this stuff inside. That sucks. I was hoping that that would help hold it in place. All right, so the camera wasn't recording while I was fighting with this, but this is essentially the end here. Wires zip tied in. I mean, they're not as tucked in as I would like them to be, but we did cut that to make the more clearance for the tire. This isn't the tire at full lock. I'll give you, I'll turn it in a second to show you the gap, but that's essentially what's gonna look like finished. I'm not gonna do it right now, but I'll probably add some black paint on the edge to try to make it look better, and maybe custom make or 3D print some caps to put over it too. But that's essentially what it's gonna look like. And this is something you can do rather than buying new running boards. You can just cut the ones you have. Now we got today's project is pretty much complete. Got a lot more clearance now from the running board. I mean, it's still probably gonna hit this mud flap up here, but that running board was Swiss cheese in the tread. I had scratches on the previous tire of it, so. But after a few miles, this tread will wear and we'll be good. But I'd say it's a pretty good job, well done. Hey. Again, I'm gonna paint the edge black to make it look a little better. Maybe build a custom cap or 3D print something. Let's spin the wheels and take a look at the other side. All right, so this is the passenger side. And this side was actually way worse than the driver's side, so that's why I did this one first yesterday to test it out. But as you can see, it's a lot more clearance. And again, these were Swiss cheesing the tires. But after a couple thousand miles, that tread's gonna go down and it'll get better. This one still hits this mud flap up here, but it's not too much of a big deal. I did want to wait till it was nighttime to show you that the running boards are still fully functional. Light's still working, coming up on the bottom. Shut it, light turns off, board goes back up. Whew. Thank you for watching Chuck the Rap Stars Garage. And watch me butcher my running boards. But hey, I get less rubbing these days.